Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Beyond PDFs, the Power of Visual Project Management with ScheduleReader. My name is Elizabeth Gruber, and I am a consultant at ProAdvise. We have quite a few participants today. Everyone is muted. So what we'll do is, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the Q&A or F&A section. They can be written in German or English, and then we will have a look at those questions at the end of the webinar. I will just shortly hand over to the ScheduleReader team, the Tsunami team. I'm not sure who would like to introduce themselves first. Vesna, would you like to go first?
Yes, I will have the honor to introduce our team here. Thank you, Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. I'm Vesna, Key Account Manager at Tsunami. I have many of my team members here today with us, some of the sales team, some of the marketing team who are here. We are all here to support our partners at ProAdvise as we are doing this webinar today. Just a short intro from my side for our company. We are a project management software development company. We specialize in project management software solutions. We've been on the market for over 20 years now, and we have several products in our portfolio. Today we'll be speaking about the ScheduleReader, an amazing tool that can make your life much easier in your day-to-day activities and make your communication with your project team much more effective. We are trusted by 6+ million users worldwide in over 4,500 companies, starting from micro companies all the way to the Fortune 500 enterprises. Enjoy the demonstration that Elizabeth will be giving shortly, and if we're needed for anything, we are here by the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. Elizabeth, you can take the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a few more people who've joined, so I'll just repeat that if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the Q&A or F&A section. As I mentioned before, these can be written in German or English. I know we have a lot of German speakers on the call, so yeah, if you're not sure how to write it in English, that's absolutely fine. You can write your questions in German, and we will have a look at those at the end of the webinar. All right, I will move on to the next slide. So this is just a little bit about ProAdvise, our company. Our CEO, Andreas Corius. We are located in Berglen, near Stuttgart, and in Erlangen, near Nuremberg. Our founding year was 2002, and then there's just a little bit more information about us there. I know a lot of you are already familiar with our company, so we won't go too much into detail there, but here is an overview of our range of services. So we are a company that's deeply involved in project management. We also have a development team. We develop tools and interfaces for project management. We offer training and coaching as well. I know some of you have already been in some of our training sessions, so we do offer training in P6, in MS Project, in OPC, various tools there. We also offer some more consulting, critical chain PM, agile PM, CPM, etc., process and change management as well. And as you're probably aware from this webinar, we are tool and implementation partners for a number of different companies. So for Oracle, so Prima, Cyforma, and here for the ScheduleReader. We also offer support, operation and services, so any technical maintenance, questions, queries, issues, we can be there to assist. All right, move on to the next slide. So why would someone want to use ScheduleReader? Well, if we're probably all very familiar with working in projects. You have your project schedules, and if you yourself are the scheduler or are the project manager in working in P6, you're probably very familiar with your schedules. You know how everything's connected, and you probably also know that it can sometimes be a bit of a challenge to communicate the project schedule information with other users. So you might have your work package managers who need to provide input but aren't working directly in P6. And of course, we can print out PDFs or we can export Excel spreadsheets and we can send them around, but it's not quite the same thing as being able to really look in detail in a schedule. With ScheduleReader, you have the opportunity to provide other users in the company or even yourself a lower cost alternative for viewing the project schedule. So not every user then requires a P6 license. They can have ScheduleReader licenses and they can view the project schedule and a lot of the project schedule information within that. ScheduleReader supports XER, XML, and XLS file formats for import, so P6 and Excel files. And the look and feel is quite similar to P6, so it's not a huge learning curve to understand how ScheduleReader works or to communicate how to use it to other users in your company. There's also a progress update section within ScheduleReader, so I'll go more in detail into that later, but rather than receiving feedback just in meetings or in Excel spreadsheets, the users, the work package managers, the people who are actually working on the project and providing you with feedback on how the project is going, they can directly input information into the schedule in ScheduleReader and provide that to you to then import back into P6. All right. So a bit more why ScheduleReader. As I mentioned, it is a lower cost compared to a P6 license, and installation takes just less than 5 minutes. It's very, very quick there. It's very easy to use. There isn't a huge learning curve to understand the software. It's also completely independent to P6, so users do not need to have P6. It's not connected to the P6 database. It's a standalone tool where you can then open up P6 schedules in the software and view the schedules there. All right, so I'm going to jump straight into the tool now. So we'll start off with some looks at the user interface and general use, and then we'll work through some of these other points here. So there's schedule analysis, update progress, reporting, linear scheduling, and then at the end, we will have a look at any questions that you've written in the Q&A section. So I'll just switch over. All right, so I have ScheduleReader here on my desktop. I've opened that up, and here it's a bit smaller, but I will maximize that out. And we have here the ScheduleReader tool. From a first glance, it's quite clear that it's very similar to other Microsoft programs. We have our different tabs in the ribbon here, and I will go through them in more detail once we have a project in here. So to add a project in, we simply go to File and then Open. And I have here a few schedules ready to go for this demo. So I'll start off with this XER schedule. I'll just double click on that, or I could single click and then select Open. And my schedule opens up here in ScheduleReader. If you are familiar with P6, you'll see that this looks very similar to P6. On the left-hand side here, I have my activities. I have multiple columns here. I can adjust these columns. I can make them wider or narrower. On the right-hand side, I have my Gantt chart. And in the bottom section here, I have the details area. So I can select an activity like in P6, and I can go through all of my details section tabs here. I can look at the status of the activity, resources, activity relationships, codes, notebook, etc. I also have the option to change my layout here. I can actually import layouts out of P6. So to do that, I simply go to File and then Layouts. And here I can select a layout to import, either an XML file or a PLF. And then I simply open up that layout, and I can go back into my schedule and have a look here at that layout. So this way, if users have seen the schedule in P6, then it can make things a bit easier if it looks exactly the same as in P6. So you can have your layout with company colors, for example, different settings for your bars. You can switch between different layouts here. You can also edit the appearance here, the columns that are viewed. You can edit the bars, how they appear. You can change the bar colors. You can change the labels. It's very similar to in P6. In fact, I'll just go into format here. So I've selected anywhere in my activities table, and I've gone to format at the top here. And then I go to bars, and you can see it's very similar to in P6. So we have the display checkbox, so whether we want those bars or milestones to be displayed in the Gantt chart or not, the name of the bar, timescale, any filters, and then the preview. So how do these bars look? What colors do they have? So I can change all of this information here. I can update the names of the bars. I can change the colors. I can add or delete bars. I can activate or deactivate bars here. So I'll just click cancel out of here because I didn't make any changes. And I'll go back to activities here. If I select here the activity table at the top in my activities banner, I can select the different columns that I want to see or to hide. So at the moment we have activity ID, name, start, finish, and resources, but I can go through exactly like in P6 and select different columns to view in my schedule. For example, if I wanted to see any actual start or actual finish columns, then I can add those in here. I can also edit the columns. So like in P6, I can change the name of the column just to suit my needs, or if I am providing updates here, I could change the columns to say exactly what I have updated or what I'm updating. So we can see here some actual start and actual finish information as this project is in progress. I can also adjust the timescale. So I can click up here where it says month, week at the moment. I can adjust that to how the timescale should be divided. So year, month, weekday. It's just like in P6. I can adjust how granular my timescale is. I can also use the slider to zoom in and out into my timescale, and I can select the Customize Timescale button to change any of my timescale options here. All right. Another thing I can do is in my outline button here, I can select how my WBS is displayed. So at the moment, or how my grouping is displayed, whether anything is collapsed or opened up. So I currently have this activity status layout selected, which indicates to me that I have or which activities are completed, which are in progress, and which have not started. But I'll go back to a standard layout so I can actually see my WBS elements here. And I can then use the outline to expand all, collapse all, or select to which level my activities should be expanded out to. So here I've selected level 2. So everything that's below level 2 in my WBS structure has been collapsed. I can also filter my schedule. I'll just expand everything out again. So I can apply filters to my schedule. There's a number of filters already in the system. Some of these are similar to in P6, such as looking at critical activities, completed activities. Some of them are new. For example, look ahead with current date or look ahead with data date. This is a very handy feature to see what my next activities are. So if I say look ahead with data date, I can see 3 months from the future. So I will apply this filter. And it shows me which activities are 3 months past, are scheduled to take place 3 months following the data date. This can also be quite handy when updating the schedule. I'll just remove that filter. I can also create my own filters. So if I wanted to only look at activities that were assigned a certain resource, or any kind of filter that you might want to apply to your schedule, I can add that in here and apply that. Just click OK here. All right. I can also change the grouping and sorting of my activities, just like in P6. So I can select, at the moment, it's grouped by WBS, and we have the indent, so we have the hierarchical structure of our WBS. But I could sort by critical. We have here a number of financial periods at the top, but I could sort by critical activities. I'll just apply that now. And then I can see, sorry, not sort by, group by critical activities. I can see which activities aren't critical and which are. Just set that back to WBS now. Okay. And then sorting, I can also sort my schedule. That's currently sorted by finish date, but I can sort by start date, by activity ID, by any of the columns that are available. And that's not just columns that are shown or displayed at the moment, it's any column that could be displayed, I can sort by. Okay. In our next tab at the top here, we have WBS. So here I can view the WBS structure of my project. This is similar to in P6. So these tabs at the top are kind of like the different windows that we have in P6 for WBS. Projects, I can import files with multiple projects in them. And if this file did have multiple projects, then I would be able to see those projects listed out here. I can also look at my resources. So these are all the resources that were included in my project file. I can view the IDs, names, resource type, roles, default units. And then in addition to that, I also have the details section here below for my resources. And like in the activities section, I can select the resource table icon at the top in the ribbon at the top here, and I can add and remove columns. I have an assignments tab, so this shows my resource assignments. Again, I have the option to add and remove different columns here, and I can also select the spreadsheet fields button here at the top in the ribbon to add or remove different lines in my spreadsheet. I can also collapse or expand any of the levels here. So at the moment it's sorted by the resources and then which activities are assigned there. I can view the OBS as well. So this is probably more relevant if I have multiple projects, but I can see which OBS is assigned here in this project. I also have roles, so similar to the resources tab, I can view the different roles in my file. And then we will look at these in a moment, but I have different reports, linear scheduling, expenses, and project calendar is something that is quite a cool feature because I can adjust my calendar here. So I'll adjust it to month, and I can see which activities are scheduled on each day. So I have here, we're in February, February 2023. But I have here all the activities that are scheduled to take place in February. And then I can just make this window a bit bigger here at the top so that I can see all the activities. If not all of them are listed out, so if I can't see every line, I have this little yellow arrow pointing down and then dots next to it icon. I can click on that and ScheduleReader will take me to the specific day that I've selected and will show me which activities are scheduled for that day. I can also view the activities per working week, per week, so including Saturday and Sunday, and then as I showed at the start, per month. All right, I'll just jump back to activities now. In addition to some of the other functions I showed, we also have a calendar button here within activities. This isn't the calendar tab at the top here. This calendar button opens up a window that shows me which calendars are in this file, so which global calendars are in here, if there are any resource calendars, and any project calendars. And I can also then view any public holidays that are scheduled in those calendars. So I'll just close this window. I haven't made any changes there. Okay. So what exactly can I do with my schedule? I could analyze my schedule. We already saw the critical and look ahead filters, so I can see which activities are critical. I can see which activities are scheduled for the next few months. I can also view my baseline information. I can import a baseline if I have an XER file. If you're familiar with transferring XER files, you'll know that a baseline needs to be restored first and then exported either with the project or separate to the project so that it can be imported into another database. The same goes here. So if I have my XER project, if my baseline wasn't exported with my project, then I will need to import that separately. So I can do that here. I've gone to File, Baselines, and then I can select which baseline this should be assigned as. In this case, I'll select Project Baseline, and I can select Import on the right here, and then choose my baseline. Now all I need to do is go back into my schedule, and you'll see that the baseline has been activated here in my Gantt chart. This bar was already activated. If it hadn't been activated, I would have had to do that, but it was already activated. So now that we have a baseline assigned, we can see the baseline information. And like in P6, I can then open up, or not open up, display any of my baseline columns. So baseline duration, start date, finish date. I can also display my variance columns, anything that I would want to view there. So we can go through and see that there is a little bit of variance here in my schedule, and I could have a look at that in detail. Another thing I can do is to open up the resource usage profile instead of the details section here below. So like in P6, I have a top view. Here it's the Gantt chart, activity table and Gantt chart, and at the bottom it's currently the details section. But I'll just navigate up to the ribbon in my activities tab where it says panes here. I can open up, instead of details, the resource usage profile. When you first open up this resource usage profile, it might be completely blank, and that's okay. All you need to do is go to Format, and then in the resource usage profile section here, you can select either by role or by resource to see the different information. And then I'll just go back to my activities view, and I'll zoom out a bit so that I can see a lot of the information. So I select a resource, and on the right-hand side, I have then the histogram information, or the bar chart of when that resource is assigned to activities. So I can go through each of my resources and have a look at that. I can also change my resource usage profile options. So you might have noticed as I was switching through some of these resources, there were blue and yellow bars here. These are just the budgeted and actual units that are assigned to the activity. So I can change the colors of these. I can activate or deactivate other values or other bars, and I can show limits or overtime. I'll show limits at the moment, and we'll see if we've reached any limits anywhere. but it looks good in this project. So here are our limits here for the plumber. And he is assigned much less than his limit, so that's good there. We don't have any overtime there. All right. Now, another great thing we can do with project analysis, we find in the reports section. So I'll navigate over to reports. And we have here the DCMA 14-point analysis. So this is a standardized analysis for project schedules. This can also be very useful even if you are working intensely in P6. If you receive contractor schedules, for example, or customer schedules, and you want to view them for quality, you want to analyze them and see how well structured they are. You can open up that schedule in ScheduleReader, navigate to reports, and then open up the DCMA 14-point schedule report. So I've done that here. It's just loading at the moment. And we can see the report runs through 14 different criteria. So we have things like the overall logic of the schedule, lag time, relationships, constraints, float, if anything's got a high duration, any invalid forecast or actual dates, resources, missed tasks, critical path, CPLI, and BEI. So we can see here which activities haven't met the criteria. So if we're looking at high float or slack, we have 61.36% of activities. I can see that here. 61.36% of activities have failed this criteria. So we have too much float, too much slack in these activities. I'll choose one criteria that has not so many activities. I'll look at leads. So actually, I'll look at lags. We have criteria 3 here, lags. Almost 13% of activities in the schedule have crossed over the threshold that is assigned for lag length. So I can click here where it says 28 relationships, and I can see exactly where that long lag time is. So this can be very helpful because it might be that this lag time can't be avoided. Maybe this is an acceptable failure here, so failure to meet the criteria. I can go through and see, okay, which activities, which relationships does this apply to, and how long is our lag? So we can see some of these have lag of 5 days, a few have lag a bit longer, 15 days, and a couple have quite long lag times, 40 days here and 70 days here. So I'll just close that. I can also set my own limits. So it might be that we have different criteria in our company for project schedules, for how they are analyzed. And I can go to the DCMA 14 limit settings here at the top in my ribbon. And I can change any of these limits. So I can choose the pass if criteria, and I can select the percent. I can rename. I can change the information here. So maybe it's okay if my project has lags of longer than 5 days because this project is a very long project. I could then simply change that criteria. I'll just cancel here. All right. Then in addition, within reports, we have a number of standard reports that come with ScheduleReader. I should add in the reports module here as part of ScheduleReader Pro. So the ScheduleReader and ScheduleReader Pro reports are part of ScheduleReader Pro. And we have here some standardized reports within that module. So I can click on Activity Brief and select, for example, the Activity Status Report. And I have here a report to show the percent completion of various activities. So here, erect precast structure, that's 50% complete. I could also look at WBS costs as a report. Here I can see the different information. We have actual total cost here in this teal color, remaining total cost in this rust or terracotta kind of color, baseline project total cost in green, and then the variance is shown here in purple. So this variance is negative, which indicates to me that we have overrun our budget here. I can also edit these charts, so I can change the colors, I can change how they look. I'll do that here. I'll just edit this chart. So I've clicked the edit button at the top and then selected my chart. And I'll just go to the format tab that appears here, and I can change my chart style. So at the moment, it's a two-dimensional column chart. I can change that to a three-dimensional chart. Didn't like that. Theoretically, I can change that to a three-dimensional chart, or I can change the colors. So it's currently in pastel theme. I can change that to a spring theme, for example, black and gold. That's probably not the easiest to view, but I can change the colors here. And I can also change the fonts and appearances. All right. Now I'll go back to the activities. Sorry, I did forget to mention, in addition to these standard reports, I can also create my own report. So I can choose from a number of different layouts, whether I want just a table, just a chart, or maybe two tables next to each other, a chart and a table, two charts, etc. I can choose here what I would like to have as my layout, and then I can go through and select the different values that I want to see in my chart. So whether I want to see maybe the units assigned to each resource, I can apply that in my report. Right, just cancel that here. And now I will go back to activities. Because as I mentioned before, we do have the possibility within ScheduleReader for different users to actually update the schedule directly in ScheduleReader. So they don't need to have a P6 license. I could send this out to a team member who's actually working on the project, or who's a maybe a work package manager who knows exactly how much has been done for each activity. And they can navigate to the Activities tab, and then at the top here, to Progress Update. Now in this Progress Update feature, I first need to activate Progress Update mode. So I click that here at the top left. And every field that I am able to update, or that the user is able to update here in the Progress Update feature, is marked by this thicker border around the cell. So you'll see we can't change start dates or finish dates or any activity names, but we can update remaining duration, actual start, and actual finish. So I'll just go in here and I'll enter the actual start date of the 27th of September. So that started as planned. It hasn't finished, so I'll just leave that as it is. But I'll say perhaps it's a week into the future. So instead of 23 working days remaining, we have 18 working days remaining. So I've just made a little change here. And when I'm done with that, I could click Save here at the top. But I'll just show something else, because I can also delete or add activities. So if I come in, I'm trying to update the progress in this schedule, and I see that there's an activity here that we don't need anymore. It's not relevant for the project, or maybe a portion of the project got cancelled. Perhaps we no longer need to build the roof. Someone else is going to build the roof. I can select the activities, and then at the top in the ribbon, in the Progress Update ribbon, I can select Delete Activity. And now you'll see this activity has been marked in red. So that activity has been deleted. I could do that for all of my roof activities, but I'll leave them for the time being. What I can also do is select a WBS element where I need to add another activity, and I can click in the ribbon, Add Activity. And then I have the ability here to enter the activity name, proposed start and finish dates, and then any relationships as well. So this can be quite useful. It's not always known how an activity fits into the schedule if you're not the person who's actually doing the physical work. So it's very handy if someone can come in and enter that information so that it's already there, already in the schedule. I could select the activity that's the predecessor or multiple predecessors. I can select the relationship type and also enter any lag that might be relevant for this relationship. All right, I'll just cancel that here. And I'll just click here on legend at the top because this shows you what exactly these different colors mean. So editable value cell, they're just white. Edited value cell, that's these blue cells. So I edited the remaining duration and the actual start date of the roof slab activity. If I've saved these changes, then it will turn green. If I've added an activity, it will be yellow. Modified will be blue. Saved green, and then deleted, as we see down here, is red. So I'll just leave that there. I've made a couple of minor changes. If I realize that was all a mistake, I shouldn't have done that, I can discard all. But in this case, I will save these changes. And ScheduleReader tells me the progress updates have been saved successfully, so I can click OK here. And in the save location of my schedule file, a new folder has been created here. So this is a folder with the name of my schedule file. I go in here and I have Excel exports of these changes that I can directly import into P6. So that can be very handy. I'll just open this up. We don't have Excel in this environment, so I'll just open it up on mine. And this is what that report looks like. So we can see this activity roof slab, the changes here are to the actual start date and to the remaining duration. And this activity here, place roof trusses and sheathing, this is the activity I deleted. And in the delete this row section, it's automatically been marked with a D. So I can see there this activity has been deleted. I also could have added the task predecessors, and there's also a resources tab here. So that information is all here for me to then import back into my schedule in P6. Just close that there. So we don't need to save those changes. And once I've done with the update, with progress update mode, I can simply click again on progress update mode to close that. So we're no longer updating anything, we're back in the view view function of ScheduleReader. All right, now another quite cool feature of ScheduleReader. I'm not sure how relevant this will be for a lot of you or whether you've even heard of it, linear scheduling. So in this schedule, we don't have any linear scheduling, but I will open up another one that does have linear scheduling features in it. Linear scheduling is used for projects with repeating location-based activities. For example, if we're building a railway or an autobahn, if we're installing cables somewhere, anywhere where we have repeating activities such as digging sections of trenching, laying sections of cable, etc. We can view that here. So what I'll do is I'll open up my project that has some linear scheduling. So I've got an example here. If you don't have linear scheduling in your project, ScheduleReader will say that the features aren't there. That's fine. So I'll open up my schedule that has it. And I'll navigate back to activities first. So this is a simple schedule for installing some cables. So we have some site preparation activities. Then we're actually constructing, so we're removing topsoil, we're digging cable trenches, we're installing cable ducts, and then we're pulling the cable through each section. At the end, we have testing and commissioning, and then site reinstatement and demobilization. So this project is divided up into 8 sections. And in each section, we're performing the same activities. To use the linear scheduling feature, I did have to create 3 UDFs, 2 number UDFs, one of them to mark the start point, so the distance marker of each section, the next one to mark the end point, and then a third text UDF, so user-defined field in P6, to indicate which bar or which shape this should be represented by in my linear scheduling. So I'll navigate to the linear scheduling tab. And we can see here, this hasn't been adjusted yet with the different views, but I will zoom in here. And also zoom in a bit more in my timescale. So I have here lines at the moment. I will change these, but I have lines to mark when and where work is taking place. So all of my construction works are taking place from 0 to 200 meters. So I set this up as quite a small project. We are installing cable for 200 meters. Actually, sorry, we're installing cable for 160 meters, but our site offices are located in the last 40 meters, so 160 to 200 meters. I will go over here to customize codes, and I can change how my different bars appear. So to make this easier for myself, I should have named these with what the tasks actually are. So whether it's mobilization, demobilization, etc., whether it's the actual cable installation. But I'll start off with my block code, and I will set that as code type block. And I can change the color here to be maybe a pale green. And then I'll click OK just to view that change. And we can see here my setup site offices. That will take place from the end of June to the end of July. And the location will be 160 to 200 meters. Then I have site preparation. So this is setting up all my fencing, my access roads, etc. That runs for almost 2 months. And then these activities in here are all of the actual construction activities and installation activities. And then at the end, in January 2025, we will have the site reinstatement activity. So I'll go back into my customized codes, and we can change these all to be bars. And I will also change the colors so we can differentiate between the different activities a bit easier. Okay. All right. I'll just zoom in a bit more so we can see everything. So each of these bars here, the blue bars, purple bars, and yellow bars, they show me when and where my different repeated activities are taking place. So remove topsoil, it's going to be done in 20-meter sections. And then once remove topsoil has progressed, we start with digging the cable trenches. And we go through from 0 meters up to 160 meters. Once we've done a fair bit of that, we start installing the cable, our cable ducts, sorry, and then we are pulling the cables here. So it's a bit zoomed out at the moment. I can zoom in here. I can zoom in quite a bit further to view my activities in month and week. So timescale settings are much like in the Gantt chart. And I can see in a bit more detail when and where everything is taking place. And any activities that aren't indicated by the UDFs as being these specific time distance activities, they're not included in my linear scheduling graph. but anything that I have indicated as being part of this time distance scheduling is shown here, and I can adjust all of the colors of the bars or the lines or the blocks. All right, I will go back to activities now, and that is everything for the ScheduleReader introduction. So I hope that was useful for everyone. If you would like to ask any questions, please feel free to do that